Alright, so let's get started. Oh no. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday. We are going to talk about this coronavirus and its impact. Fans Toys made a post about it, for instance, so it's affecting us, right? So we got to get into it. We're going to talk about what it is, how it's transmitted, and are we at risk, etc., plus get into the kind of larger and broader impact that it can have both on Hong Kong and China, politically, socially, but also on the world trade economy. It might get a little dry because there's some details in there, but I think ultimately it's beneficial. This is really why Sit Down Saturday exists, is for conversations like this. Now, I'm no expert, but I'm going to give you what I've researched. But first, a little bit of house cleaning, and not a whole lot, honestly. Last week, Sit Down Saturday, a lot of people were saying in the comments like they're talking about their money that they're willing to, or like their time that they're willing to sacrifice in order to make money for but that's not really what that video is about. I hope that that's not lost. I think most people got it. I wonder if maybe those comments were made before actually watching the content of the video, because I can see how if you were saying like, well, the video is about sacrifice, that you're thinking about what you're sacrificing in order to obtain those items, but that's not really what the video is about. Totally, it's about what you're sacrificing within the toy for something else out of the toy. So that needed a little clarification. I was also a little surprised about how many people think that I don't care for Fans Hobby. I don't think I've ever reviewed a Fans Hobby item that I didn't recommend. There's some stuff about Fans Hobby that I'm not a fan of personally, from my general taste, and I think there's a Fans Hobby discussion that can happen. I just think they don't have enough out quite yet to really get into it, but I'd like to get into it. The Make Toys in-game, a lot of people seem to have issues with theirs. I can dig it, I understand. I don't have issues with the one that I looked at for the most part, with the exception of the Stress Mark song. So individual results are going to vary on it, apparently. I was fortunate, or the gentleman that bought it was fortunate enough to seemingly have a good one. And Force Friday, thanks for the love on the Death Watch video and the articulation video. It seems like people really dug that stuff, so that's cool to see. I got a lot more coming, and my buddy Andy, who's helping me out with it, has a ton more ideas to also get into, so more is coming, don't worry. And I think that's it. I think we can rock and roll. So let's get into it. We need to start with a little bit of information surrounding this. We're going to talk about what this disease is, what, if anything, do we need to be concerned about, the impact that it's having, and what does it mean for the hobby. So let's get started. This particular coronavirus is the NCOV. Coronavirus itself is a broader term. It's a large family of viruses found in both animals and humans. Some infect people and are known to cause illness ranging from common cold to more severe disease such as Middle East respiratory syndrome or severe acute respiratory syndrome, the ever so popular recent SARS outbreak that was a big deal a few years back. All part of the same family tree of viruses, which is the coronavirus. This particular coronavirus is a new strain that has not been previously identified in humans until this point. The new or novel coronavirus, now called the 2019 NCOV, had not previously detected before the outbreak was reported in Wuhan, China in December 2019. Wuhan! Got you all in check. It's not the same as SARS, but it's part of the same family. As with other respiratory illnesses, it can cause mild symptoms, including a runny nose, sore throat, cough, and fever. It can be more severe for some persons and can lead to pneumonia or breathing difficulties. More rarely, the disease can be fatal. Older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as diabetes and heart disease appear to be more vulnerable to becoming severely ill with the virus. Just recently in America, we had 2 people recently identified with it in California. A husband came back from a business trip in China, wasn't feeling great, basically quarantined himself, and then his wife got it. So that's at least the first American person-to-person transmission that I know of. That's important information, that it can be transmitted from person to person. Usually after close contact with an infected patient, for example, in a household, workplace, or healthcare center, we now know that it can be transmitted. What can you do to protect yourself? Wash your hands frequently, maintain some social distancing, avoid avoid touching the eyes, nose, and mouth. If you start developing symptoms, seek medical care early. Go to your personal physician, so on and so forth. If you have mild respiratory symptoms and no travel history to or within China, carefully practice basic respiratory and hand hygiene and stay home until you're recovered if possible. How does the virus spread? Primarily through contact with an infected person through respiratory droplets generated when a person, for example, coughs or sneezes, or through droplets of saliva or discharge from the nose. It is important that everyone practice good respiratory hygiene, sneeze or cough into a flexed elbow, etc., etc. Now, here's where information gets a little bit more important for us. How long does the virus survive on surfaces? And truthfully, it's not known, although preliminary information suggests the virus may survive a few hours. Simple disinfectants can kill the virus, making it no longer possible to infect people. One of the major questions I've seen popping up is it safe to receive packages from China? A lot of us buy directly from China, or are at least working through an American distributor buying directly through China. Obviously, it's coming from China, but some of us are buying more direct than others, is what I'm trying to get at. So let me tell you, it is safe. People receiving packages are not at risk of contracting the new coronavirus. From experience with other coronaviruses, we know that these types of viruses don't survive long on objects such as letters or packages. And all of that information is from the World Health Organization. It's also important to note that this thing has killed like 400 people. I think 14,000 people have been infected. 600 people have fully recovered. And that's of today. This is Tuesday, February 4th that I'm recording this. Which, I mean, the spread of it is significant and how fast it's spreading and the symptoms are significant, etc., etc. But it's important to keep it in perspective that the flu kills tens of thousands of people a year. So what I'm saying is that use common sense. If you're in the healthcare field, for example, you're more at risk. If you know people that have recently traveled to China, you're more at risk. Wash your hands, take care of yourself. But at the same time, it may not be time to build your bunker next to your house quite yet. That may be a little overkill as of this moment. But the question is, what does this mean for us in regards to getting our stuff, right? Chinese New Year has come upon us, so to speak, and that always delays our sort of, productivity over there and our buying and, receiving and stuff like that. So the fact that they're both kind of happening at the same time might be a bit of a, I don't want to say blessing, but it may go less noticed because we won't be getting stuff for the next couple of months probably anyway. But Fans Toys has made an official statement. On their Weibo, they said, due to the severe epidemic situation, the factory was postponed to start construction and the after-sales service was postponed to restart on February 17th. It is known. Now, I've also heard reports, shout out to Proto Man, he had made a quick little video about it that I watched and he had some good information on there, but he had said September and he had heard September. So if I were the viewership, I wouldn't get lost in the woods on that. It's not going to be about the date. It's going to be about when it's safe. Projections are just projections. They don't actually mean anything. They're just not going to go back to work until it's safe for people to go back to work is what it sounds like to me. But they're not the only ones. Samuel Decal, which I think makes a lot of like third-party Gundam stuff, they also made a post and said, Dear all, due to China coronavirus issue, all logistics has stopped until the 10th of February. So at least that's our second kind of statement about February still being the aim as to when to get back to business. Our supplier cannot deliver stocks to me for shipments. Some orders may delay until logistics resume. Sorry about that. Then he says, well, let's talk something. Hong Kong situation, not good. Government sucks. We queue a drugstore for masks and no more can be bought. Even Amazon has no stock. Can you imagine all people under masks in subways, etc., etc.? And if you know anything about the Chinese government, it's getting even more complicated over there. And the situation between China and Hong Kong is uneasy. It's volatile. It's a complex situation that we haven't seen all the ramifications of yet. Hopefully the people of Hong Kong can get kind of their justice. That's who I'm on the side of anyway, from the limited amount of research and information that I know and talking to my buddy Joe, who is from there. But there are a number of factors at play in that area, in that region of the world, that are making things very complicated, and we can see those complications becoming even more poignant in a situation like this where there is a virus that is an issue for the demographic. But there's a larger system at play here that we have to think about. This isn't just Fans Toys. Apple has shut down stuff over there. Google has shut down stuff over there. Starbucks has shut down stuff over there. Now look, I don't know all the ins and outs of those companies, but I'll tell you what I do know. They like money. You know how I know that? Because I see the portion of the money I get on YouTube, and anytime I want to buy anything from my phone, I gotta buy 3 separate things in order for it to work. All of them Apple-based. So that's how I know they like money. So what I'm saying is, for them to shut down operations, they're losing money. Companies don't like to lose money, so it's serious. It's not a joke, because if it were, they would just continue on. So there's going to be an impact on the market. That's that's according to the Wall Street Journal, who also says global businesses operating in China are closing stores, scaling back operations, and restricting travel as the Chinese government races to control the coronavirus that has now infected more people than severe acute respiratory syndrome did in the country 2 decades ago. The South China Morning Post reports we expect a big plunge for both manufacturing and services PMI in February to a range of 40 to 45 due to the coronavirus outbreak. The services could be hit harder than the manufacturing as a number of service sectors have come to a grinding halt since the 23rd of January. They go on to say concerns among small and medium-sized manufacturers in China over the impact of the coronavirus outbreak have risen sharply, with many worrying about going bust if the situation is not brought under control soon. Anxiety is most acute among labor-intensive manufacturing firms as local governments have restricted business where numerous people congregate in an effort to contain the deadly virus. If the outbreak is not brought under control by March or April, when many foreign customers place orders for the rest of the year, some Chinese companies fret business will shift to suppliers outside of China, accelerating a move to alternate manufacturing bases, especially in Southeast Asia. Foreign customers will definitely wait and see how the epidemic situation develops and may place new orders in the regions instead of China. I only mention this because you add in this sort of complication into that region in regard to trade, along with what's been going on between America and China over the past few years, and China's economy becomes a bit more unstable under those factors. South China Morning Post goes on to say in Guangdong province, one of China's manufacturing hubs, small business owners who are already grappling with rising costs and the effects of the trade war are bracing for a downturn should the epidemic continue. Now, the Wall Street Journal says that many international economists have tried to establish how much a dip in China's economy would reduce global output, but such analysis largely focus on the demand impact, not the supply chain disruption. But the evidence from previous unexpected supply shocks is discouraging. But I mentioned Guangdong earlier because it looks like they're definitely affected. Now, I'm going to be clear, I don't know where all this stuff is made over there. Not for sure, just being honest. But what I do know is that Guangdong does produce a lot of toys generally. In fact, it produces over half of the world's toys, with the cities of Dongguan, Foshan, am I right? Shantou, and Shenzhen leading the way. China's toy industry posted strong growth in 2016, countering recent trends in China's light industry sector. While China's total exports dropped by 7.7% and imports by 5.5% in 2016, toy exports rose by 9.5% and imports by 23%. Although lower cost manufacturing locations in India and Vietnam have affected investor attention, China's toy industry has been performing well due to a shift in the country's burgeoning domestic consumer market and advanced manufacturing process. Now, what do we know about that? Not that this ties into this video, but just keep in mind, Takara is making their stuff in Vietnam now for lower costs. And we are seeing the results of it with lower quality. Much like this stuff, you get what you pay for. China is the world's largest toy manufacturer, producing around 70% of the world's supply. China has numerous toy industry clusters along its affluent east coast. Guangdong province alone produces over half of the world's toys. Now, South China's Guangdong province had reported 272 confirmed cases of pneumonia caused by the coronavirus, and that's the breadcrumb trail I've laid before you as to why this is going to have an impact on what we do. If this stuff is being made there. I assume it is, but I don't know for sure. But it's obviously in the hot seat. I think it just had its first death recently in that area, so that might line up with Fans Toys posting and all that kind of stuff, or the Gundam companies, the third-party Gundam companies post. So now we know what the virus is, we know how it's transmitted, we know how to keep ourselves as safe as we can in regards to it. I'll have links to some of this stuff in the description, including a tracker for the coronavirus so you can kind of see how it's spreading, and it is kind of scary to look at. So if you're an anxious person, probably just avoid it. It's not as scary as it looks, but it does look scary. We know that it's affecting our favorite companies. We can assume why and how it's affecting them in regards to the areas that we are assuming they're being produced. We know that their products are not going to harm us because the virus, as far as we know, cannot survive that sort of time out in the open. And from a little bit of deeper research, without going too far, we know that it could have serious implications in regards to China's economy overall and everything moving forward in the future, theoretically. But a lot of this stuff tends to blow up really big and then kind of settle back down. Hopefully this will be one of those times. My thoughts and prayers are with Hong Kong for a number of reasons, this coronavirus only being one of them. And they should be in you guys' thoughts and prayers as well. So I hope that was beneficial and not too dry. Once again, sometimes I feel feel like I have to be the voice of reason. We can all get kind of worked up about stuff, and sometimes it's good to take a step back, acknowledge the dangers, acknowledge the risks, acknowledge the issues and the potential problems, and then also look at it rationally and have a bit of a balance brought to the force. So I hope that helps. Some good information in this one. Heavy though. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.